Hello everybody, this is Brandon from Galaxy Stock Market. Today is April 4th, 2026. It's Saturday, approximately 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to wish everybody happy Easter. We all know what this holiday season is all about. And I'm going to be talking about what is happening in the geopolitical front and how that ties into Monday's opening again. We're going to talk about, is it going to be Black Monday again? And we've been dealing with this for the last 8 weeks, ever since the Iran war has erupted. And I'm going to tell you something surprising and give you evidence as to why that is, and go over some news flow and go over some charts and to help you prepare for the coming week. Be not deceived. All right, so here's the disclaimer. For those of you not in our community, I'm watching this on X.com or on YouTube or somewhere else. Please pause it, read it. If you agree, please move forward. And I want to thank everybody for following us on X.com as well as on YouTube. Please comment, like us, and share. And of course, on YouTube, subscribe and follow us on X.com. All right, so here's the question. Has the market priced in Iran war and rising oil prices? And, we got a shocker of a market event, and which we caught in our group. And we're going to go over why we continue to think that despite the negative news, the market is now climbing the wall of worry. And, it just continuously happens to be that we get these Thursday and Friday negativity and then the weekend scare, and everybody's expecting a Black Monday. And again, everybody's expecting a Black Monday situation, but the market data is telling us perhaps otherwise. So we need to really think about what's happening and be ready. This is not a market where you take positional sides. You have to be nimble. You cannot be going all in thinking that the market's going to crash. Like I told you in the previous video, I believe that the stock market crash is going to happen in 3 stages. And I think the phase 1 or first stage has already passed. And we are now in the time frame in which the phase 1 of the sell-off should be finishing up. And then, of course, until about the end of May to July is when we expect another volatility to set in. Narrative about the war, it's not really about the war. War is a distraction away from the fact that the monetary system, the fractional reserve banking system has failed, not is failed, but has failed. And we are in the process of implementing a better or worse system. And I believe that's exactly what's happening. They want to distract you. They want you to pay attention to the war while they bring in a new monetary system as the banks continue to fail and we continue to have these private credit and private equity fallout, which threatens to have contagion. And I think that's exactly what's happening. New monetary system and the old guard banking system and financial system is crumbling and making way for a new system. And that's what's happening. Okay. And really, if you think about it, everybody talks about the Iran. We have the jets that have been shot down, U.S. fighter jets. And, everybody's expecting Armageddon come Monday. I'm here to tell you that market data is telling us otherwise. While retail is panicking and possibly shorting the markets and doing all these things, markets are contrarian at peak fear levels. So they want you distracted. That's it. That's all they want right now. Of course, let's look at some news. And here's Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, or Secretary of Defense, it used to be. So while you're distracted by the Iranian war, here's Hegseth talking about the Microsoft Digital Escort program that basically has been allowing engineers and communist CCP to steal classified Pentagon cloud systems. And here's the funny thing. The funny thing that I've noticed at the market close, if you look at the time, and these are options order flows that we get. And obviously at 3:29 p.m., we got this massive block trades as Microsoft is being moved higher off the lows from the morning. Everybody expected a market crash on Friday, and we got a surprise of our lifetime. And I think that's going to continue. However, I think these are related. This action, front running and insider trading is at an all-time high, and I'm not saying one is better than the other. Markets are rigged, folks, and there's insider information that people are trading on. This is something to pay attention to. It doesn't have to happen. Microsoft finished the day pretty bullish off the low, but here's, I think, what's happening. If you paid attention, this came out early in the morning on April 3rd, which is Friday, and then at the close, somebody must know something, because these humongous 70, 72, 20, 35, 21, $30 million block trades right before, about 30 minutes before the market closed, went in. And so pay attention to this. There's something that might be brewing in the Microsoft situation, but regardless, the war is not about really the Iranian stuff. The market fear and all that things that's happening is really the shift in the monetary system, and henceforth the U.S. governmental structure. I mean, it's just absolute chaos. I don't know what's up or down anymore. I don't quite know what Trump is doing. I don't know if he's doing good or bad. It doesn't really matter. We got to trust in Jesus at this time of Easter, okay? He is in control. Jesus is king, folks, okay? Not Trump, not the politicians, okay? All things must come to pass, and he has said, do not be afraid, for all things must come to pass. All right? And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but be not afraid. All right, so let's move on. I didn't mean to preach. I'm not qualified to preach, but I'm just sharing that with you. Zero hedge, okay? At the same time as people were saying, hey, these job numbers were revised, or it's rigged and all this other stuff, and I think they're rigged. But regardless, algorithms are probably going to like the fact that full-time jobs, 335K was added. Of course, these are revised numbers. Again, while you're distracted, while you're basically maybe buying puts or shorting the market indiscriminately because come Monday, everything's going to fall apart, quietly, there's stages being set in the background for a recovery in the marketplace, okay? And then while you're distracted, of course, again, another nail in the coffin here. We've been talking about the 10-year yield completely going bonkers. It's because people are selling our treasury and there's nobody buying it. So our treasury, or Fed, offers these treasuries, and no one buys them, so we print more money and we just buy it back, pretending that there is demand. Again, monetary system, old system is failing, and this is what's happening. Bankers take you to war. And then, of course, we have our great President Trump, okay? And this is what I agree with. To be a great nation, you must have religion and you must have God. Jesus Christ is king, okay? You see the shift that's happening while the mainstream media and the mainstream politicians and, the powers that be, the elites, are pushing other agendas. He is out there proclaiming the greatness of Jesus Christ and God. Think about that. That's wonderful. Okay. And then Kobesi letter, these are all coming out. Okay. Investors are hedging against corporate defaults at record pace at levels not seen since 2008. What does that mean? Okay, it means that we're probably going to have a Lehman Brothers or Bear Stearns type of 2008 type of crisis at our hands as the banks are insolvent. I've been saying that for a long time. The monetary system change is coming, and the cockroaches that Jamie Dimon has talked about is himself and the big mega banks and the central banks. There's big changes coming. Okay, but I believe the markets are pricing this in. I think this stuff is going to rear its ugly head probably in the fall. Right now, everybody's focused on the war. Okay, the war and the aftermath of the war, okay, has largely been priced in. I think one of the Marine generals, Smedley Butler, had once said, war is a racket. Okay. This is going to basically create demand to replenish all the stockpiles after killing off a bunch of people. Whether you agree with the war or not, I'm not here to talk about that. It's just that the bankers take you to war. Okay? Banking system has failed. This is the example, right? A new monetary system is being implemented. I'm pounding the table. Here's my table. I'm pounding it right there. War and geopolitics, politics and, politics are distractions, folks. Okay? Remember, bankers take you to war, okay? Bankers take you to war. It's been like this throughout history. Just look at it. Roman Empire, as they devalued their currency and as hyperinflation set in and as they were the superpowers of the world, they had to have continuous, endless wars, and this is what the elites want. And I believe Trump is trying to fight that, and sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. All right. I want to talk about Tesla here, and normally I don't really talk about it. I don't want to give away a lot of things that I do, but I believe a lot of people are seeing this $360 put structure being seen on the options chain. That's really acting as a floor. I believe that the SpaceX IPO is coming soon, and I think that we have a inverse head and shoulders forming right now. We could maybe chop around a little lower. But if you buy enough time, I believe we're heading right above into this 420 to 410 level. Okay, watch Tesla, folks. Now, the other thing that we want to talk about is that at the close of the market, okay, like literally 5 minutes before the market closed, the net premium drift, okay, and I don't have time to go over that, but if this doesn't ring some alarm bells for you bears into the close, somebody knows something. Okay, I know the news flow right now is super negative, and I've fallen for it many, many times over the last 8 weeks. But the issue is that somebody knows something to the point where you would have this decline, massive decline in the net premiums on SPY. And not only that, we reclaimed this 50-day moving average right into this area here. We probably are going to, at the very least, start moving higher into the 675 on the SPY range. I mean, we have a little bit of a spike in the RSI off the lows. Okay, just people are just too damn bearish at this point. Okay. So the question is another stick save coming on Monday? Are the bears going to be fried? Because, I mean, it is basically absolute pandemonium. But the smart money is betting that there is another stick save coming on Monday. And so absolutely, the question is how are they going to rig that market? Okay, both Trump and Powell. I mean, it's just, I don't know who's doing what. It does bring to light that the powers that be, the banksters, have no shame anymore. They do it right in front of your face. So the answer is resounding yes. Let's look at some charts now. Remember, yesterday the stock market was closed. I think the futures market was open for a little while. However, all right, we're just chopping sideways. Here's that massive rescue that we got. Same thing if you look at the NQ. It's a massive rescues that came about. Everybody thought we were just going to plunge down. Okay. By the way, we caught this rip higher, okay, as a group. Okay. And so that's what's happening here. And then gold and silver, pay attention to gold and silver, folks. Okay. It's quietly, like I've outlined this on the x.com, but it's quietly making this inverse head and shoulders. But not only that, it's been making these higher lows. I think we're moving back up to test that area. Silver is about to break out. That was gold. Here's silver. Here, here's our inverse head and shoulders. Here's our shoulders right here. Okay, higher lows, folks, higher lows. All right. And the dollar is staying above 100. I've told you that it's a race to zero, and this is yes, an ominous sign for overall marketplace. Okay, and the fact is that despite the efforts, yes, the TNX has been coming in a little bit, but inflation is here to stay. Okay, so are you hedged for that inflation, and do you know how to do something about that? VIX continues to stay above 20, which is bearish, but we've been coming back down. Okay, we're sitting on this cliff. If VIX starts to come down, then I believe this first phase of the bear rally, bear market is over. Additionally, we wanted to look at oil. Okay, basically, our algorithms caught these, and I think oil's going to go a little bit higher, okay, maybe to 120, but it doesn't matter. I think the entire market system has decoupled at this point. So let's look at the McLaren Summation Index, my favorite directional indicator. We've kind of gone into this first phase of that volatility box, and now we've got this little blip higher, and I think everything is looking to move higher at this point. So pay attention. Directionally, we are changing the directionality. Okay, and then this is the same SPY chart that I've shown you, but it's a little bit bigger now. And so I think we're basically going into this 20 SMA and into this downtrend line, maybe to the top end of that Bollinger Band. We'll see what happens on Monday. But you know, the technicals are indicating that we have potentially put in a bottom, and we're going to start climbing the wall of worry for the next couple of months, maybe into May. Here's the MACD histogram. It's moving higher. Yes, it still looks super bearish, but histogram is the first warning sign, and we're having some divergences forming. CCI is at extremely oversold levels, and it's contrarian at those levels. Okay, and then of course we have the stochastics forming the bullish cross, and then of course our PPO ADX. Okay, I think it's beginning to kind of curl back over, but we're making that crush signal. Whenever PPO ADX does something like this, like that, that is bullish, folks. When they converge towards each other, it means a price explosion or a relief bounce or a relief rally that's going to be prolonged is going to happen. All right. So SPY has been coming down on the accumulation distribution channel, however, okay, and that's going to continue to happen. And then when we look at ATR, though, all right, I believe that we have changed directions from the downside to the upside that's happening. Let's look at silver real quick, okay? Silver is interesting because, again, we have this positive divergences as we came down. Yeah, in the short term, yeah, they rigged it. I mean, they're rigging the margin requirements. They're not really allowing you to trade. The bid and ask spreads are significantly higher. And of course, if you try to get physicals, I mean, the spot premiums are exorbitant. What happened is we found support this week at this pivot area. Okay, that's the auto pivot that I use on stock charts. And then, of course, we got rejected, or we couldn't quite push through the 80 MA and the 20 SMA. I believe we're going to start pushing higher. And if we can get above the previous 122 high, we're moving higher, folks. I think we're going to start hitting $200 to $300 in the next month or so. Okay, same thing with gold. Gold looks a lot healthier than silver. Again, we have a reversal candle off of the pivot, and then we get rejected right off of the 80 MA. I believe there's enough strength here to move higher. Everything is diverging. Okay, the only thing right now is that the MACD really hasn't signaled anything, but this is early on in the game right now. We talked about Tesla. Okay, and I believe Tesla is setting up for a bounce. Okay, and it's not going to be anything else other than the fact that SpaceX is coming up, and the fact is that this 360 level had to hold, and it did. Let's see if it continues to hold, or we just flush down. Okay, but if it does hold, I think we're going to start moving into this 420 level, right into that 20 SMA region. Okay, MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy's been having some interesting dynamics going on right now, and that interesting dynamic is that there's been a lot of call buying that's happening by the institutions, and so I believe something about the cryptos, maybe the Clarity Act gets passed and then we get a little bump. I'm expecting cryptos to move higher starting next week. Okay, so MicroStrategy looks pretty bullish to me right now. And then we have our Costco. Okay, and Costco, it has formed a bottom, and I believe that's moving higher. Costco kind of leads the market a little bit higher, and we were short on this name, and it didn't work out. Partly because I think the market is putting in a temporary bottom. Okay, here's our Palantir. Okay, Palantir, I believe, is moving higher. Okay, and this is pretty bullish. We stayed above the 80 MA. Just got to get over 20, and then we're going to be right at 196. Okay, and then Nike. We nailed Nike as a group, as an earnings play. It was a no-brainer in terms of the setup and also the options flow. And just looking at the gamma exposure on this was just incredible. And so we've took the $48 puts. Okay, that was expiring actually next week. But anyways, Some of us have runners, but we're going to come into this area. Nike's in trouble. I think their leadership sucks. I think they focus on more woke ideologies instead of giving the consumers what they want. Plus, the consumers are tapped out anyways, so they have to try harder than that. But you go woke, you go broke, folks. Okay? It's too bad. Google is been experiencing some positive gamma delta and net drift, and that's happening. There's a lot of call buying that's going on, and Google, I'm telling you, it looks like it's leading the way again. We just need to get above. We're right on that 80 MA. I think the target is going to be right here. It's not going to be nothing ever happened. It has held up very nicely during this pullback. Okay. So that's kind of it for now for us. Just want to warn you, the XRP is setting up to move higher, and that's something that I've been pounding the table on. And whether you listen to me or not, you got to do your own due diligence. But I'm going to show you the XRP chart just a little bit. Okay, I think we are coming on right into this area, and this has kind of been the support area, and I think we're ready to move higher. It just, I think that's what's happening. Okay, and then Bitcoin kind of ties in with MicroStrategy. Okay, for the time being, I think we're going to maybe back test into this 85K level, maybe come back down somewhere later on in the summer, but that's what I'm anticipating. Regardless, monetary system change is happening right now. They want you distracted with a war, but proof is in the pudding, folks. Okay, in the coming week, I think we're going to look for the bottom. War is just a stunt. They want you distracted. But the relief bounce is coming, and it's going to be for a couple of weeks, at least through the middle of May. And markets are not real and manipulated. Just understand that. Then every time that you think the market's going to crash, they're going to come in and do it in your face, whether it's Trump, Powell, or who the heck knows, Satan. It's coming higher. Okay. And I just do not believe that the markets will crash on the post-Easter weekend. Okay, so I don't believe there's a Black Monday. Okay, I think we're going to get another shocker of a market bounce that's happening. Watch XRP, cryptos, gold, and silver about to break out. War intensifies, but we're not winding down. It's just started, right? Okay, war is intensifying. Rhetorics of war, rumors of wars are going to intensify. Oil is heading higher, which is highly inflationary, which is great for gold, silver, and also XRP. Just look for things. Things are not as it seems, but the black swans are swimming everywhere. No doubt. I think we're just overextended right now. The fear factor is high. Granted, the markets have not fallen that much. I mean, we've declined maybe 5% on the ES and maybe 9% on the NQ. Okay, hardly at all. Maybe 5 to 6% on both, come to think of it. But people are freaking out. Okay, can you imagine when we actually do get later on in the year 20 to 25% drawdowns? That's what I'm expecting. Okay, so new money system is being implemented. Rest are distractions, wars and fears of wars. Be not distracted. Silver and gold about to break out. Cryptos are about to move higher. Accumulate? Hell yeah. Right? Watch the VIX. VIX is moving lower, but it's still at that kind of the volatility level. We're going to be starting to climb the wall of worry higher. You got oil? Markets move higher next week despite the fear. Watch the stocks. Okay? And then, of course, thank you so much for following me at Galaxy Doc Market. Like us, share us, and above all, comment and subscribe. Okay? If you want to join our community, we have an entry-level essentials package. Click on the link in the description or in the profile. $49 a month. You get the watch list, market commentaries, and chart updates. And if you want to work with me, email me at coachbrandon@protonmail.com and schedule a consultation. Okay? Otherwise, happy Easter, everybody. This is the reason why we are here. Okay? Jesus is King. Okay? And let's pray for peace. And be careful out there. Thank you. Bye-bye.